And as Liza was saying, there, of course, much of the attention for President Zelensky will move to that pressure in the White House on Monday. But let's get more of a perspective on how Russians see how the summit went, the outcome of the summit. We can speak to Olga Krasniak, associate professor at the National Research University, Higher School of Economics in Moscow. Olga, welcome to the program. How do Russians see the outcome of this summit?
Well, I think 2 points can be considered here. So first one, it's having this meeting between state leaders. And it is very important because understanding Russian foreign policy position and Russian foreign policy attitude, I think that Putin would not agree to meet with Trump if some preliminary conditions were not set. So I think certain things, certain decisions have been already made before on this diplomatic on the diplomatic posture. So and of course, while we have this progress, while we have this meeting, so it shows us or leads us to the conclusion that certain progress has been already made. And even we do not know maybe the details of the conversation, well, just because a traditional diplomatic approach, it's not a part of public diplomacy or not a part of some political rhetoric. It's just a traditional diplomacy when the results will be assessed later, maybe not now. And second point to consider, well, while we have this meeting, so and definitely it has a positive attitude, and Russia's position have not been changed for the last three and a half years since the beginning of this war in Ukraine. So Russia's position is explicitly discussed, and Putin was mentioning about what we want many times, and the predictability of Russia's behavior, it is very important thing. I think President Trump now is listening to Russia and maybe really considers Russia's interests.
So, Olga, let me ask you this. We are not entirely certain what was discussed in terms of territory, but President Zelensky is very clear he cannot give up sovereign Ukraine territory in the Donbass, particularly where the Ukrainian military still holds power. So do you think that President Putin is going to continue to insist on taking over that territory?
The short answer is yes. Of course, we do not have any other reason just to get back, or maybe just to get back this territory to Ukraine for many reasons. So the reason number one, Ukraine actually has lost its sovereignty, and sovereignty means, in real terms, it's an ability and have resources and have an ability to make internal and foreign policy decisions.
Jump in there and say Ukraine has not lost its sovereignty.
It lost its sovereignty. So having a flag or anthem or anything, it doesn't mean a country has sovereignty. It's totally dependent on its Western partners. It cannot do itself nothing. And
Okay, Ukraine has been able to defend itself with some support from Western partners, but Ukraine is a sovereign country. It has a democratically elected government. President Zelensky represents its people. So I don't understand how you can say that Ukraine has lost its sovereignty.
Well, President Zelensky, his term has been already expired more than 1 year. And we see based on...
Well, that's because there was an invasion of Ukraine. He can't hold elections when his country is under attack by Russia.
Well, he definitely can, but he doesn't want it. So, of course, we have different attitudes on the sovereignty issue. But still, I'm absolutely certain. So Russia will not will be holding back. And of course, this territory, it's not about taking from Ukraine. It's about regaining its own territory with Russian-speaking people who've been oppressed since 2014 at the very least, and they've been bombed by Ukraine. So in this case,
Olga, can I jump in there and ask you, first of all, there's no proof that Russian minorities have been oppressed. Secondly, can I ask you, if there's such concern about sovereignty in Ukraine, why doesn't President Putin stop bombing Ukraine and allow the country to hold elections?
I would ask a different question. Why would Western partners of Ukrainian Western partners still supply Ukraine with weapons? For what? They want to continue this war. So Russia and the United States, they show explicitly they want this war to end, but on certain conditions. But Ukraine and European Union leaders and countries, they want to continue this fight. So they are not willing to talk with Putin, unlike Trump. They continue to push Russia with sanctions, with anything. And nothing instead of insults or offenses. We never heard from Ukraine or from European leaders to Russia. So in this case, I do not see that Putin will be somehow discussing with Zelensky or with European leaders anything until they would not change the attitude towards Russia.
Okay, Olga, we have to leave it there. Olga Krasniak, thank you for joining us on our program. Important to note, of course, Olga referring to Western support for Ukraine after Ukraine, a sovereign country, was attacked by Russia. But certainly that is an important note to make there, as Olga was making the argument that we've heard often from President Putin. They don't see Ukraine as a sovereign nation, which simply isn't